Let's start the party. Who's with me? Okay. Yay! All right, Nina's here. So you are creating these spaces that make the spaces happy, make people happy. So what I was wondering is what makes you happy doing your work as an interior designer? Why is this work meaningful for you?
So I think this is part of the conversation about the books too, but I am obsessed with how people live. Yeah. Like, I just love it. If you know me, I'll ask you the weirdest questions, like, for no reason. Like, you'll be like, oh, I just went home and had dinner. And I'm like, well, what'd you have for dinner? And then they're like, no one asked that. That's so like invasive. But then I'll be like, what were you like? Oh, did you put on like comfortable clothes? Were you sitting and talking to your husband? Did you have a cocktail before? Like, did you like, were your kids awake? Or like, I need the details.
Yeah.
And it's always been a weird thing, but I love to know how other people live. And it's a way for me to understand why I live the way I live. But I'm also interested in this idea that we're all doing the same things. We all have this need for shelter. We're all seeking comfort. We all go to sleep at night. We all have our dinner with alone or with people, but we're doing this all at home. And it's just so interesting to me how people do it all differently,
Yeah.
And I always remember going into friends' families' homes when I was like a teenager and the house smelled different. Do you remember? It was like, and the styles were totally different, but it was like, they were just living in a different little like world,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just find that to be so beautiful and interesting. So first and foremost, I love finding out how people live and how they live in their homes, and then slowly deciphering why they live that way.
Yeah.
And, and being able to create something for someone just by cues or picking up on what they're interested in or conversations, that is the ultimate for me to create a home. But the rule someone once told me was like, really ask more questions and let them talk more than you talk. And so I'm really careful of that ratio. And I think interior designers love to go in and be like, I think you should do this and like put that on there and like you need new drapes and like show off a little bit.
Yeah.
But really, I always know when I go to a conversation and someone's asked more questions of me than I've asked of them, I'm like, wow, that was like really, I felt like someone needed to know about me. And it feels good. We all want to be heard, right?
Right.
And so I really ask those clients a tremendous amount of questions. Not like, I don't start with the personal questions like up front, but, we do get there eventually, like what side of the bed do you sleep on? Like, I literally have to know those things. And so, but I also talk about like, what do you imagine your style to be? Sometimes they'll take me a tour of their closet and talk about fabrics.
What are some other things as people are creating a business that you feel like could be very helpful for them to know that they might not even think about?
Well, I think if someone's interested in doing interior design, I think the number one is be realistic about what the profession actually is.
Okay.
Okay.
Tell us about
because
the realism
it's like
there.
I think people think that I like run around and like shop every day and I just like get to do whatever I want and like I'm just like I'll take that like Pretty Woman style.
Yeah.
That's not what's happening.
Yeah.
I'm literally on the phone with FedEx and I'm like, I cannot pick up that package. There's no like sticker here, or I'm unpacking a box that has like so many of those like little peanuts in there and then I have to like spend a half hour cleaning up, or like you name it, and like I'm like scrubbing out a stain in like a vintage Moroccan. It is not what you think it is. It is not what you think it is. So even though our design work is a large portion of the project, there's the logistics behind it that, is huge. So you really have to decide that you're in it for the business aspect, not just because you think your interiors are pretty. Yeah. If you're only interested in beautiful interiors, you can do it for yourself. Do it for your family, but the business of interior design is very different. Some days I spend half the day invoicing. The other day I go to the workrooms and make sure the finishes are correct. The other day I'm like organizing my material library, or, shopping for light bulbs. Like it's not all just, but if you love interior design, all of those things kind of happen, and with ease. You're not freaked out by them. So,
yeah.
But it's just, there are logistics. And start small. Like, the other thing with interior design is like you can't build your portfolio until you have a lot of projects completed. Projects take a year and a half sometimes. So, you might have 3 years of projects that are not even good to shoot and you don't want to even put that forward. It takes a tremendous amount of time to build a portfolio.
Yeah.
So you have to be committed to that and be kind of ready to kind of hustle along the way. It's a journey. I think some people are starting off their careers by doing their own home. I think that's a nice start.
Yeah.
Like start small,
Yeah.
Don't think you're going to do like a castle in the south of France, like on year 2, so just kind of go with what's coming to you. You have to come up with new avenues. Interior design, you can't necessarily advertise. So you got to find a way to connect with people. Is it brokers who are just selling houses? Is it a developer? Are you speaking with, are you introducing yourself to other, people in the industry, vendors, or, make sure that your furniture maker knows that you exist, so that if he has a client and they want more things in the room, they can recommend you, things like that.
Do you think that is the hustle, that's like part of your genius zone? Like, have you ever heard Gay Hendricks talks about how people have a genius zone, or you have your zone of competence or your zone of excellence. And so you can be like really great at what you do, and that's kind of like your zone of excellence. When you think about like the work that you do with interior design and also being an author, which we're going to talk about too, where do you feel like you shine the most? Like, where's your zone of genius?
I think my zone, great question. That's amazing. I think my zone is kind of a threshold for risk that might be higher than, I do things that I know nothing about.
Ooh, yeah.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
Someone asks me to design rugs, no idea what you're talking about. Like literally, what is a cut pile? I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know? It's like opening a store. I actually don't know how to get money into the store because I don't understand the point of sale system. Like you can, books, I'll tell you the story, but like really I had no idea what I was doing. And I just like sent out an email to an editor. Just like the wackiest thing. So I'm not afraid. And I think the thing that I do is I just go for it. And if someone says no, or if it doesn't work out, over and over again, you can always redo. Just do it something else. Do something new. There's no fear. I guess I have no fear in that level.
I love it. No, it's amazing.
Because I was like, pregnant and didn't know anyone, and I didn't know what I was doing with the book. I didn't know how to find things.
Yeah.
I literally had to I really just had to invent my own way. And then also like lose any fear from emailing a stranger.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to do in the beginning.
You did all this research. We're talking about Surf Shacks, your first one. And you found the places, and then you and your photographer.
Like just a backpack and like a dream, and just got on that plane and just would go there.
Oh my goodness. And then for each book afterwards, it seems like your traveling is just like, you're just upping the ante.
This time I went bonkers. Like
you went bonkers.
The next book is going to literally be like houses in like
your backyard.
On my block. I'm literally just going to knock on my neighbor's door and be like, can I come in?
Yeah.
This one I overdid it a little bit. I remember my editor, she's like, because it was COVID when I got the deal. And I was like, oh, like I really, she was like, just do, the US. And I was like, and then I was writing down my lists and I was like, okay. So we've done almost 14 countries now in 9 months.
Amazing. Yeah.
I am like dead inside, but it's fine. It's fine.
All right. So you have published 2 books. You're working on your 3rd one. So you've had some experience. What about publishing books feels the most magical to you?
Well, I think a couple things. One is I think it's merging my love of looking inside people's homes like a creeper and traveling, and that's the access. I think, we can all go to travel to Portugal or to Patagonia, but like that's a very different trip if I'm going with my family and staying in a hotel versus me going into someone's home and kind of seeing how they actually live there, right? Like smelling their foods or seeing the bread on the counter because they left it out from breakfast and kind of seeing the books on their shelves, the plants, just everything you can understand through their house. So it's a way of understanding a location based on the inside of someone's house that I would never get otherwise. Even you feel very different when you come in as a guest, as opposed to feeling like you're visiting a country. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's almost like, you feel part of it a little bit more. It is such an adventure. I would not, when you're in it, you're like, this is just like, what is that? This is the coolest. I would have never done this unless I was doing the book.
Yeah.
Like, what a crazy adventure.
Yeah.
Thank God this is my life. Sometimes I run out of inspiration. We can all talk about we always have inspiration, but sometimes I'm like on Instagram and I'm like, saw that 3 days ago, already saw that again. I totally know that's this month's issue. Got it. And sometimes that's exhausting,
Yeah.
And I've come to the end of Pinterest searches too. Like, you're like, is that at the same image I just saw like 10 minutes ago? What's happening now?
Right.
So I think for me, it's like, how do I still stay constantly excited about what I do and about interiors, and also see what other people are doing that are not interior designers, because that is where the magic happens, I think.
Yeah.
People are really smart. They're really good at interior design. They're really good at just like making a home for themselves. Thank God.
Yeah.
And it's not just professionals. And I love to see what other people can do. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah.
So
that's really beautiful. I love that.
I think challenge number one truly is like the financial aspect of making a book, which I think people should talk about, because I think that's like it's a little unfair, it's
let's talk about
bookmaking. Let's talk about it.
Let's do it.
Design books are not like, you're not selling 2 million copies.
Yeah.
Who knows? But like,
are you not though? Come on.
No, we are. We've sold over 120,000 copies. That's for a design book. That's enormous.
Right.
I understand, like, in the grand scheme of like the population of America, that doesn't sound like that many. But we're design-driven people, so we are the ones that are buying the books. Everyone in America are not buying design books, which is the truth of it. So we're not publishing a novel. It's a very specific market. So I think like advances are not like enormous.
Yeah.
And you have to decide, for me, it's not a way of making a living, truly, like interior design is. But doing books, the amount, you'd have to pump them out so fast. Plus, you would have to bring another skill set to the table. So you'd either have to be a photographer or you'd be willing to write your book. I can barely write an email, as I told you.
Yes. So
I'm not the right writer for the books. But and it's a tremendous amount of work too. So you really have to be ready for all of that.
So if someone wanted to get started on creating a design book, what are just a few little tips and takeaways that you could share on how people could just even get started?
So one is like, I think number one is make sure that you find that what you're wanting to do is like truly authentic. It has to be something you really care about. Otherwise, just stop right there.
Yeah.
And keep digging. I think I think it has to be inclusive and feel accessible to a wide range of people. When I first approached the editor, I was like, it's going to be about like homes in Venice, California. She was like, you're going to care. Like, people here are going to care in Venice. People in Brooklyn are going to care. What about everyone else?
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. Thank you. Because it felt exclusionary. People don't understand, know about it, care, like all sorts of reasons, right?
Right.
So you have to make sure that it feels everyone can kind of access what you're about to put out.
Yeah.
And then I think speaking with people, speaking with other authors about the reality of what it is like. So like, I've had people ask me out for a coffee and I will go every single time. Because I do think what I didn't do enough of was ask other people's advice. And I think understanding what you're about to head into is super critical.
Yeah.
And then also assembling find the people, find the books that you love and find the people you love. So you have to start by like, go to your bookstore and find your dream art book. You flip to the back into the acknowledgement section and everyone's like, who's your editor? Who's your book agent? Guess what? They're all back there.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. And guess what? You type those into Google and their email addresses pretty much, because you type it in 2 different ways and one of them is not going to bounce back.
Right. Yeah.
And then you can so in a way, like, you really can figure out all of this. You don't need to ask for favors unless you have a direct connection. You can truly do this like on your own. And then I think you're really showing up with like your clear statement and purpose. So, but it does not have to be a chapter. It could simply be your mission state or your what you're really trying to do. And then you're also always including who your like maybe a mood board of like image styles that you like your dream chapter, like an image or something. And then also what books have been published that are similar, but how yours would be different.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
For coming here.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks.